Yo, what's up, guys? Happy Friday to you. I hope you've had a great week. Go ahead and get in on the chat. Let's get the party started. It's Friday. It's 5 o'clock. Usually we have a weigh-in to watch now, but the Lomachenko Kome weigh-in already happened today, so I'll pull that up here in a second. But I wanted to talk about what I'll be doing here tomorrow in town. Man, it is a cold, gray, rainy day here in Atlanta. It's been like dark gray out all day. It's basically Alaska outside, except it's like 40 something degrees Fahrenheit for those of you listening from overseas. So it's warm enough, just warm enough for it to be a really cold rain instead of a beautiful snow. So I'm like, damn it, we need some snow. Maybe we'll get some snow later this month or in January, but it snows like once a year here. That's it. But it looks like snow today, like for real, except it's just a little bit too warm. Anyway, let me pull up my, let me share this screen right here. Guys, I've been telling you about this all week. I'm going to be calling the fights tomorrow with Money Powell III here at a club show here in Atlanta, the Underground Showdown, Buckhead Fight Club. All you have to do to watch this card live is go to the WBC's WBC Network's site. So I'll show you real quick. And you could just Google it. Google WBC Live Channel, WBC Live Network, and boom, this pops up, okay? So if you click right here, watch WBC TV Live, if you click on this, it'll prompt you to set up a profile. And that looks like this, just to show you guys how it looks. And you can see right here. So this is where you set up email, password, all that good stuff. And then once you put that in, you have to register with your email, password. It's free. Boom, you got it. And as you can see in the background there, there's a show playing right now. The Neutral Corner plays every week, all week, here on the WBC channel, worldwide. So you guys can see that, but you can see all kinds of other cool content on there, man. There's T Street Controversies on here, and there's a bunch of other good stuff on here. So you could go to WBC Live, and they edit the videos. They kind of clean them up, sweeten them. The quality of the video on this channel is a lot better than YouTube. So if you guys want to watch this on your TV at home and stuff, the quality is awesome. Anyway, all you got to do is create this login, right? So right here it says login, but if this was your first time, you sign up. Sign up, boom, it's free. You're registered. And then you can tomorrow watch, let me go back here. You can watch the Underground Showdown, where I'll be calling the action. We have a really, really fun card. It's going to be a fun club show with main events, heavyweights, and I'll be calling the action again, along with Money Powell III, who's a really, really cool guy, has a distinct, like, old school voice. You guys will enjoy it, man. It's going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you get registered by tomorrow, check us out. Right at set from like 7 to 7:15. Money Powell and I will be kind of doing like an intro. We'll be talking about the fights. We'll also not just be talking about the fights that we're going to call here in Atlanta, but we'll be talking about the Lomachenko Kome fight and some other recent fights. So we'll be breaking all that down. And then I think the first bell is like at 7:20 or something like that. So look, I know there's a million fights on tomorrow. I get it. A lot of those fights are on apps where you can watch anytime. So if you want to watch some fun, like, I guess if you want a pregame for the big fights later on that come on late tomorrow night, just check us out, man. Check us out. You'll have a good time. Those shows are always fun. You always see something crazy and good. All right, so I want to also pull up this weigh-in. For the weigh-in heads, I got to pull up the weigh-in here. So we'll play that. I'll back this up here. Of course, an ad plays. I have no idea what the hell this is. We'll just skip this ad. Boom. Okay. So we'll let that play. And then we'll do our thing. Guys, if you want to get in on the phones are lit right now. You guys could get on there. Or I'm saying phones are open. They're not lit. They're open. So you guys could call in and we could talk about this thing. If there's not a whole lot to talk about today, then we'll cut it short. All right. But right now I'll get over to the chat and we'll see what's going on. MK says, if Loma wins, does he become a mandatory for any of the belts? I don't know about that. I don't know if he becomes a mandatory for any of the lightweight belts. By the way, I love your profile picture. It's just like an awesome meal on a big plate. That looks pretty damn good. I'm hungry right now, so that looks really good. But obviously he's going to be in a great position. Okay, so I favor Lomachenko to win. By the way, I think the over/under. My boy Trey was telling me I think it's like 8.5 rounds, which means it has to go 9.5 or more rounds. And I think it will. If I was going to bet the over/under, I'd bet the over on this. I got Lomachenko by decision because Commey's pretty durable. And I get it. He was knocked out by Teofimo Lopez, but that was an explosive, power-punching, youthful lightweight that fights much different than Lomachenko. So I just see Loma doing his matrix thing. And it's possible this fight could be stopped. It's possible Loma could get him with a body shot. I don't see it with a headshot. It's also possible that Commey's corner says, nah, we're good. But he's so tough. Commey's tough, man. Those fighters from Ghana are tough. It's going the distance. Loma wins the decision. But then he's in position to possibly get that fight with Kambosos. Top Rank would do that in a heartbeat. And they would absolutely go over to Australia. Look, I got to say, a fight between Lomachenko and Kambosos is a bigger fight than a fight between Haney and Kambosos. And I would bet there's a part of me that would think Kambosos' team would look at Lomachenko as more vulnerable. He is older. He did lose to Teofimo Lopez, a guy they just beat. So that fight could happen. And I think that'd be a huge event. And I asked this on Twitter. I'll ask you guys. A fight between Lomachenko and Kambosos in Australia. Is that the biggest fight in Australian boxing history? Some people brought up Pacquiao-Horn, and I get that because of the upset and what happened. But going into that fight, it was seen as a huge mismatch. And Pacquiao, I believe, had a title coming into that fight, right? He had the WBO welterweight title. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a top-ranked fight, so it had to be the WBO. In this case, it's the Aussie who has all the titles. He's the undisputed champion. And the old champion's coming to Australia, right? So this could be, if it happens, the biggest fight in Australian boxing history. OJ says, Mike in chat. Yes, sir. That's what's up. Trey says, weather sucks. Yes, it does. Although I went to the gym today, you guys saw me tweet out the picture of my awesome Crunk gear. By the way, I should mention this. I talked to several members of the Crunk team this past weekend, and I'm working on a story for Ring Mag. It's not going to be in this issue coming out this month. It's going to be coming out next month probably, because I already have one in this issue. And it's a lot of year-end stuff in this coming issue, right? That the deadline was today. Actually, our editorial deadline was today. But it's going to be in the next issue, next issue. But big news coming out of Crunk. Some really, really cool, positive stuff. And Crunk branding is going to significantly increase over the next 5 years. Significantly. And Crunk Gym is actually going to be expanding. I can't talk about this too much on the record. All right. I don't want to give away too much, but it's going to be expanding into different markets outside of Detroit. Really, really cool stuff. I will add one thing. A lot of the Crunk gear that you guys see on all these sites and stuff, it's not the actual Crunk Gym. It's some other manufacturer, right? The actual Crunk Gym gear that comes from actual Crunk in Detroit funds their youth development program. And so in the coming weeks and months, actually probably by the end of next week, I will have a discount code that I can give to you guys that you can use to get discounts on legitimate official Crunk gear. And that's going to go to fund the youth development program there in Detroit that's helping at-risk kids. I talked to Jeff Stiers, who runs the program. He's a former fighter out of Detroit. Coincidentally enough, he did not come up in Crunk. Crunk was like a rival gym for him across town. But he's from Westland, which is like 20 miles west of Detroit. Anyway, he was telling me 100% of the kids in the program, 100% are either from a no-parent home, which is the majority, or a single-parent home. 96% of them are on a free lunch program at school. Growing up briefly, there was a time where I was on a lot of my childhood. I was on reduced lunch. I never had. I probably could have qualified for free lunch at one point when I was in high school, but my mom was too proud. But I was on reduced lunch, and I know how that feels. And anyway, it just really took me back and kind of hit me right here, because these kids, they're going through a lot up there, and the youth development program they have going, pretty badass. So I'm going to be talking more and more about that. We're going to have some guys from the old Crunk on the show, on my podcast in the new year. All kinds of cool stuff coming. And the next time I can get up to Detroit, I'm going to visit the new Crunk. I'm going to train there, work out there. It's going to be badass, guys. Anyway, yeah. I don't even know how I got on that tangent. Oh, yeah, I was working out today. Sorry, that whole tangent I went on. I was working out today in my Crunk gear, and I tweeted a photo of my Crunk gear that they just sent me down. It was so gray and rainy and shitty out. I went home, took a shower, and passed out for like 2 hours on my couch. And then I woke up and logged in here to do this show. That's, when it's gray and rainy and shitty like that, that's what you do. Because my wife is out of town, or else I'll be doing something else right now. Joe says PBC is getting ready to announce Areola versus Stavern live on pay-per-view in February. Only $89.99. Well done, sir. Well done. I wouldn't put it past him at this point. Blood Orange says, who should Robert Helenius fight next? He wants a title opportunity. It's definitely going to be one of the PBC guys. I mean, dude, imagine if Deontay Wilder does a comeback fight and it's Robert Helenius. I mean, something like that could happen. We could see that. But he's definitely going to be in a title hunt if he wants it, but he might have to fight outside of the PBC universe to do that. Let's see who's next. Who's next on this chat? Kufujitsu says Loma and Comey are highly ranked in the WBO. So it looks like the winner becomes mandatory for Kambosos. Wouldn't surprise me. I haven't looked at I don't look at these sanctioning body ratings unless it pertains to a story I'm working on or something. I don't care. But we're Bob's organization. That's the WBO. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Bob runs that organization. Keith is on the chat. What's up, Keith? He says if Loma wins emphatically, he should jump ahead of the pack. I would think so. If he does, if he knocks Comey out in 5 or 6 rounds, like that's something none of us are expecting, right? That would be a really, really big statement. Gufujitsu says Fennec versus Nelson 2 was a big fight in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, I forget about fights like that. And then who's the one fighter that I think it was a Muslim fighter out of Australia that was pretty popular. I mean, they've had some big events over there, so maybe it wouldn't be the biggest event in Australian boxing history, but Kambosos defending his undisputed lightweight championship against a former pound-for-pound #1 guy, maybe the greatest amateur ever, one of the top 5 greatest amateur boxers ever, Vasily Lomachenko. That's got to be up there, right? It's got to be their biggest fight in 20 years or something over there. I know that much. Twal says Loma probably lost a step, but he is still 2 steps ahead of everyone at lightweight. We'll see. We'll see tonight. Blood Orange asks an interesting question. Will the ring ever expand into MMA? Well, it's funny you ask that. Let me grab one of these. There have been, we've dabbled slightly, but I know that Doug, the current editor, Doug Fisher, this is a special issue. There's some issues. There's some issues that do have like a little MMA insert in there. I want to see if I could find one. I've seen it before. I don't think we've done one in a long time, but Ronda Rousey was on the cover of Ring a few years back. That caused a hell of a lot of controversy. I think Doug is committed to keeping it a boxing website and a boxing magazine, because there are only literally, I don't even think 5 around the world that still exist. At least in the English-speaking world, it's pretty much us here in boxing news over in the UK. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. And props for that, because a lot of these other boxing platforms that do that, They do it for financial reasons. They don't give a shit about MMA. They just know that they can get more readers. It's the only reason they do it. Keep getting his damn ads. Man, some of them top rank girls, look how curvy that girl's hips are. Did I just say that out loud? Oops. Okay, back to the chat. Kufujutsu says Loma still has his coordination. He's a handful for anybody. Yeah, if he's still got those angles and he can box, he's going to box circles around Kome. He just has to avoid getting hit. I think he can still do that. Mark Ashley says, I had Loma still the best when I knew he was losing to Lopez, and he remains so. You're not alone. My boy Steve Kim did a poll on Twitter, last week I think it was? It might have been this last weekend. And he asked, who's your number one lightweight in the world? And the winner was Loma. I think like 50% of people out there said Loma. So a lot of people still rate him number one. Trey, what's up, man? He says, when will Xander fight real competition? Good question. I think they're going to step it up in 2022. The main thing there has just been keeping him busy, and they want to see improvement at this level of opposition. And I think you've seen it. I expect a big performance from him tomorrow. Here's what's funny. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet. Xander is fighting on the untelevised undercard. I think he'll be on the ESPN Plus app. But you know who's on the ESPN show? Nico Ali Walsh. Guys, we have to play the drinking game tomorrow. Every time. And you guys, we got to count this because you saw the poll I did on Twitter. The over and under is 20 mentions, okay? I want to see if ESPN will go over or under 20 mentions that Nico Walsh is Muhammad Ali's grandson. Every time they mention it, you got to take a swig of your drink. Whatever your drink of choice is. If you're drinking beer, you're drinking wine, you're doing shots, whatever it is. Every time they mention that, boom, you got to do a shot. Over under is 20. I can't see them going over 20. I'm going to bet the under. I'm actually going to bet the under. But we're going to have fun with it and troll a little bit. I won't be able to hear it live because I'm going to be doing the commentary here in Atlanta for our show here on the WBC Live Network. But you guys will have to clue me in, and I'll be tweeting and stuff, and you guys will have to let me know what's going on. I don't know why they feel the need to shove that down our throats constantly. Because he's a white boy with cornrows that's related to Ali, and that's supposed to make us want to watch him. I don't know what their rationale is for shoving that down our throats constantly, but it's hilarious. And ESPN, the Top Rank, when they get on these narratives, man, they love pushing it. You know, remember with Tyson Fury with the lineal thing? I mean, they were really going hard with that when he was fighting guys like Tom Schwartz and who was the other guy? Who am I forgetting? Damn it. Otto Wallin, right? But now that he actually is the lineal champion, they don't mention it half as much because they don't have to, because he beat Wilder again, actually 3 times. So like now he's seen as the guy, and they don't have to shove it down our throat and like force us to believe it. Most people believe Fury's the top heavyweight now. But when he was fighting Tom Schwartz and they had to like try to sell, hey, you're watching a historic event, it was just lineal every 3 seconds. I mean, Joe Tessitore would be making love to his wife. Oh, lineal. You know, it's all they talked about. It was hilarious. And now it's this Nico Walsh thing. Anyway, let's get Nacho on the phone because I know he's got some opinions about all this. Nacho's always got good stuff to say here. Let's bring him on. Nacho knows his shit. What's up, Nacho? How you doing, man?
Hey, man. I'm good. How about you?
Doing good, man.
Just with the whole Jesus, like, you keep bringing it up. I mean, I can't help but laugh. So, yeah, I don't
I know
get
what you're
it
gonna
either,
say.
Mike. With Nico Ali, they're killing me with this. Like, I mean, the kid has no resume whatsoever. It looks like he's never fought in his life. I mean, to me, Mike, this really feels like the African American version of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is what they're trying to do with this kid.
Yeah,
they're going to try to build him up, and then eventually try to get him a soft title shot, and hopefully he wins it, and then they can legitimize him as a quote unquote champion. But he will have never really fought anybody in order to get to that belt.
Yep.
And I think that's ultimately going to be their end goal, is to try to make this kid a champion and sell him as, like, you know, a legit champ, but he's really not. they're going to find the softest, title holder they can get, and then eventually hope that he's good enough to win that belt, and just kind of do that. But yeah, I agree. I don't get why they keep shoving this dude down our throat at this point. Like, nobody's clamoring to see this kid. I don't get it.
Yeah, do their ratings skyrocket when he fights? Like, I mean, because
that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
if they did, the Mike Coppagers, the Kevin Iole, one of those guys would have talked about it, right? Because that would get them clicks, so they would have brought it up. But that's not happening. So it's really difficult to understand their thinking. By the way, Nacho, I wanted to just on this line of thinking, did you see that PBC is doing a Christmas card and the two guys that they have? Oh, by the way, Nico Ali Walsh is weighing in here on the video I'm showing. But did you see the PBC card they got coming up on Christmas?
Yeah, Joey Spencer and
Vito Milniecki.
What's the other kid's name? Vito Milniecki. Yeah.
Those are two more guys
about that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I had heard about that card a few months ago because they wrote an article where Milniecki had said that the PBC was telling him he was going to fight before the end of the year. So I figured at some point he was going to get on television again. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Mike, I don't know what they're doing with either one of those two kids. They're not really developing them in a way that legitimately makes them look like they're up and coming prospects. I mean, Spencer's fighting nobodies, and Milniecki got beat by a guy who I think they thought he was going to beat really easily. So it's just weird how they're going about developing both of these kids. Like, I mean, they're not that much younger than somebody like Ryan Garcia or Virgil Ortiz, and yet those guys are light years ahead of Milniecki and Spence right now.
And I think it goes to the same line of thinking, though, Nacho. And I don't want to get overly political, but I think somebody at PBC thinks these are two white guys. They're young. They're good looking. Somehow they're going to break through. And I think that's what Top Rank's thinking with Nico Walsh. It's kind of the same thing, where they just think that there's going to be some demographic thing that happens where these guys become stars. And I think they take for granted that boxing fans can tell the contenders from the pretenders. Like, we know Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, those are the guys we want to watch develop, not these guys, right?
Yeah, for sure. The hardcores do, but honestly, I think they're marketing these guys to the casuals. I think that's what it is. I think they're trying to sell them to the casuals as guys who are going to be legit champions, but we all know they're not. They're just going to be guys,
Yeah, just another guy.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, they're just really weird how they're doing it. But just let me just touch on the cards real quick this weekend. I think Loma's going to beat Comey. I think Comey will give him a tough fight for the first, 5-6 rounds, but I think Loma figures him out. And then I think Loma ends up doing Comey like he did Nakatani. I think he ends up stopping him late, probably like in the 10th. And then in the Zayas, I like the kid a lot too, Mike, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, at some point, are they really going to start stepping up the competition with him? Because, like, enough of the dudes who, aren't on his level, he can wax those guys all day, every day. Like, they need to put somebody in there who can actually give the kid a legitimate test. That's what I want to see next. I want to see how he handles somebody who's not going to fold as soon as he starts hitting him,
Right.
And and then what's the co-main on that Top Rank card? I'm kind of blanking right now.
Top Rank. Well, they have is it Jared Anderson maybe? Because I know Jared Anderson's on the card.
Oh yeah, Big Baby. Yeah. Big Baby.
I like him a lot, man.
Yeah, I like him too. I think he's like the next up and coming heavyweight prospect. Yeah, that guy's good, and I definitely would like to see him continue to develop, because I don't think it'll be too long before he eventually becomes a contender for, somebody's belt.
Yeah.
Now, who will that be when, the belts come up? That'll be the question. But I like watching him fight for sure. The one I wanted to bring up really quick, Mike, because I've been kind of reading up on it earlier today. Did you hear Casimero lost his belt on the scales because he couldn't make weight?
No. I did not hear that.
Yeah, so apparently they're having that card in Dubai tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he was weighing in to fight Paul Butler, And apparently there's a story being put out that apparently he couldn't even get to the scale to weigh in, that he was like suffering from gastritis and he wasn't going to be able to make it to the scale. So at this point they had to sanction an interim title fight between Paul Butler and, get this, Joseph Agbeko, who I haven't seen fight since Rigondo kicked his ass like 7-8 years ago.
Holy shit.
Like, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, wow.
That's crazy, man. That's like, crazy, dog.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that they dug that dude up and brought him out and are going to give him a title shot tomorrow night. That's insane. I'm like, wow. Like, geez, just when you thought they couldn't dig up any more guys who we thought were done.
Yeah,
they
dude.
Get Joseph Agbeko.
I'm surprised like, wow. Agbeko made weight.
Yeah, he did, because the fight with him and Butler is happening tomorrow. So yeah, I'm assuming he must have just been on standby in case one of these two guys didn't make weight. Because I mean, how else would he have made weight for a fight so quickly? So,
it's like somebody knew something we didn't.
That just was very convenient how he just happened to show up.
Yeah.
And then with the PBC card, I'm curious to see how Donaire looks, because I mean it's been a while since he's fought, and I mean he should beat that guy Gaballo. I don't think much of Gaballo. I thought he got a gift over Rodriguez, and I think Donaire, if he's still sharp and on point, he should take this dude out relatively, easily. Probably somewhere in the middle rounds, I think he takes him out. And then the other fight with there's a kid on there, Brandon Lee. He's fighting the guy that just fought Prograis Heraldez. Yeah. I'm curious to know what you think of him, Mike. I'm a little iffy on that kid. I think he could be legit, but they're moving him at a real slow pace, developing him.
That's what PBC does, though. So it's honestly like when people ask me about PBC prospects, it's really difficult for me to say, because like my boy Trey wanted to know, like, how should he bet on that fight? Could Brandon Lee lose that fight? And it's like, yeah, I guess he could, but he's supposed to win. That's a setup for him to win, and on paper he's going to win that fight big. And so far Brandon Lee has shown really good explosive power. We don't really know how he catches, but I'm always like, just I'm suspect with PBC prospects, because of the way they develop them. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then the last one I wanted to bring up was Dimitri Bivol is fighting in Russia, and he's defending his belt in a stay busy fight. I hope he wins. I would hate to see him lose, because I definitely want that fight between him and Zurdo Ramirez to happen next year. Like, both of those guys need to fight somebody who can actually fight back. Like, I'm tired of watching both of these guys just fighting these dudes who are no hopers, and they're made, they're tailor made for them. So I really hope that they both win their tune-ups this week and next week, and then they sign on the dotted line so they can fight each other next year. Because I'm just kind of over watching both of those guys just fight nobodies and not really get tested anymore at this point. And the last thing, since I didn't get to call in Monday, Mike, I kind of got to see both fights. I kind of agree with what you said about the Cruz Davis fight. I thought that Cruz, came on towards the end and, really made it a lot tougher fight for Davis than I think they even anticipated. But I was a little disappointed in the kid in that his corner didn't really tell him to kind of go all out and just, risk it all, because, I mean, if Davis really had a messed up hand, like they keep saying, why would you not tell your guy to go out there and just, swing for the fences?
That's
no matter what? I mean, because you're not going to get another shot at Davis. And he even said so after the fight was over when they asked him if he would accept the rematch. He said, hell no, because he knew that he was getting hell from this little guy. So I don't understand why his corner just didn't tell him to go balls out and go after Davis and try to see if they could get him out of there, because I thought he had a legitimate chance to get him out of there, him being hurt, and they just didn't step on the gas, and it cost them. But I'm sure that at some point he'll get another shot at somebody with a name through the PBC. Who that is, I don't know. And then the last one was with Haney and Diaz. I thought Diaz also too gave him a tough fight, but it's kind of like what some people said. If Diaz would have had a little bit more pop in his hands, I think he would have taken Haney out. But the fact that he didn't have that pop, it cost him big time in that fight. And I'm starting to kind of wonder, Mike, like, I'm not so sure that Haney should go up to 40, but he might not have a choice, because it looks like he's really killing himself to make 35. But I'm worried that at 140, he's going to get in there with dudes who hit a hell of a lot harder and are a lot heavier than he is, and he might just end up getting smoked. I mean, unless him and his management literally pick and choose the softest guys in that division, they're not going to win a title in that division. It's going to be tough for him to win a title at 40 when he does move up. So, I'd be curious to see what they do with him moving forward when he eventually does move up, but I'm not sold on him at all. I still think he's very suspect, even for a guy who does have a title right now, So,
yeah.
All right, Mike, that's my call.
All right, man. Yeah. Have a good one, Nacho.
All right,
all right, peace.
Thanks. You too.
Real quick, for those of you just getting on here, and I'll pull up the other the other weigh-in a second, but I just wanted to show you, for those of you just getting on, just a reminder, tomorrow night I'm calling the fights for a club show here in Atlanta, the Underground Showdown, on the WBC Live Network, and it's powered by Vive TV. Vive TV is like the production company that does all the actual like programming. The WBC is just the name. So you see Vive Network here in the corner of the screen, and they have boxing content playing 24/7. They have different shows, like my show, The Neutral Corner, is on there. I know they have T Street Controversy on there. They have I'm not sure who the boxing authorities are. I'm not sure who these guys are, but their show looks interesting. This looks cool. But tomorrow night, they're going to have the Underground Showdown right here. So I will be calling the fights. Oh, they're pulling up. I guess that's an ad where I was talking about it on my show recently. But they're going to have, let me find the actual ad, because, yeah, here we go. Oh, no, these are just videos. Okay. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. But all you got to do is go to this site, all right, and just literally Google WBC Live channel. Boom. Go to the site, create a profile. It's free. And then you log in with your email and password, and you can watch this content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anywhere in the world. They have a schedule with all the different shows they have on there, and then they have live events. And again, I'll be calling the fights tomorrow. It starts at 7:00 p.m. I'm calling the fights here in Atlanta with Money Powell III, who's an awesome guy, and his kid's a pretty damn good fighter. So that's going to be fun. So make sure that you guys check that out. I saw a question here in the chat. Blood Orange asked, do you agree with Ring's pound-for-pound ratings? Well, let's pull them up and have a look, shall we? I'll pull them up here on the screen so you guys can see. Okay, here we go. And this is as of December 4th. Okay, now our ratings process, of course, it's a democratic process. So, we have everyone in the panel kind of argues it out, and then we go with the average, the weighted average. So number 1, we have Canelo. Yes, I agree. Number 2, Usyk. Yes, I agree. Number 3, Crawford. Yep. And I put Crawford above Inoue and even above Taylor right now. And I know that might upset some of you guys, but Inoue, look who fought last, right? Crawford just fought. He just stopped Sean Porter. No one's ever done that. Crawford started as a lightweight. Sean Porter is a top 10 welterweight. So all things considered, Crawford number 3, I'm good with that. Then Inoue, sure. Josh Taylor, sure. Now, the bottom 5 is where I think you get into debate. The top 5 right now, pound for pound, I don't really think there's an argument. It just might be the order. Some of you out there might not like this ordering, but the top 5 guys, I mean, clearly the top 2, I would say, is Canelo and Usyk. Those guys have separated themselves from the pack. If you want to put Crawford, Inoue, and Taylor up there too in top 5, like I'm good with that. Those guys have separated themselves in a different way. Then you get into this, like the waters get a little murky, right? And right now we have Errol Spence at 6. I personally would not rate Errol Spence that high. He's fought once in 2 years or something, once in 2+ years. And I get it. There have been injuries and there's been accidents and things he's had to deal with. But the bottom line is he hasn't fought. And I fought with a lot of the fellow. What's interesting is with the Errol Spence thing is a lot of the Americans on the panel, okay, they really, really are high on Spence. It's a lot of the non-American members of the panel that kind of agreed with me, some of them, not all, some of them, that Spence should be dropped a little bit or maybe is a little rated too highly right now, because a lot of the American writers make a big deal of his win over Mikey Garcia, which I don't think is that big of a deal, and Danny Garcia, which certainly isn't a big deal. But they'll say, well, Mikey Garcia was this pound for pound guy when he was a featherweight and a lightweight. How long ago was that, is my question. Since he signed with PBC and then he kind of has done these one-offs with Matchroom and stuff, he really hasn't been that impressive to me. He's fought B and C level opposition. And when he fought an A-level guy, he got absolutely dominated. That was a 120-108 shutout. I was ringside. Garcia didn't win a round of that fight. So when he fought Spence. And then with Danny Garcia, I get that he was the junior welterweight champion. How long ago was that? Almost a decade ago, it feels like. So for Spence to beat a guy like Danny Garcia, who's been just basically a boxing businessman, like Mikey Garcia the last however many years, never been an elite welterweight, I don't rate those wins very highly. Errol Spence's best win is Kell Brook coming off a loss, a beat down, knockout loss, where his face was fucking smashed. And he had to move down in weight 13 pounds, right? It wasn't a move from middleweight to junior middleweight. It was a move back down from middleweight to welterweight. And Brook was winning that fight halfway through. 6-8 rounds through, Brook was winning until Spence turned it up in the second half. Impressive win by Spence because it was on the road, and he did come back from behind to not only win, but stop Brook and smash his face just like Golovkin did. It had already been smashed. So, and Brook has never been the same. He's had problems with those injuries in several fights since the Golovkin fight, right? So I just, Spence's resume, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there, but try telling that to the PBC sycophants. Anyway, I rate Spence highly, but I wouldn't have him number 6. Now, Estrada at 7, a lot of people felt that Chocolatito beat him earlier this year. I don't think it's a big deal to have Estrada in the top 10 because I think he's one of the best fighters in the world. I've been high on Estrada for years. They will eventually rematch, probably in early 2022, and we'll get an answer to that question. Lomachenko, we'll see tonight. If he handles Comey the way we think he will, I think he deserves to be in the top 10. I'm big on Ioka, and I know his fight coming up with Ancajas, I really felt that was going to further solidify his pound-for-pound credentials. It got postponed because of what's going on in the world, but I do think he's a pound-for-pound top 10 guy. I do, and I made a big push to get him on the list late last year. Tyson Fury at number 10. I vehemently disagree with this. Vehemently. And I made that known on the ratings chats and the committee chats. The reason why I'm so against this, well, there's multiple reasons. You guys know I don't rate heavyweights until they have cleaned out the division. He's got to beat Usyk, and then I'll put him on the list. But in terms of pound for pound, everyone he's fought that's a top level fighter. He was on performance enhancing. I'm done being a Mr. Nice Guy about this. I'm just going to fucking say it. He was on performance enhancing drugs when he beat Klitschko years ago. And that was fucking 6 years ago. I can't even remember what year that was. It was so long ago. So good win, but there was some help and it was a long time ago. Since then, He has 3 wins over Deontay Wilder, who was a hype job, smoke and mirrors, was never an elite level fighter. He had a big right hand and fought a bunch of BC level guys, and he was propped up by the American media. Those wins over him are great wins. Great wins, okay? And he, at one point, it was number 1 versus number 2, so he became lineal. He has the Ring Magazine championship at heavyweight. But he outweighed Deontay Wilder by 50 pounds. So in pound for pound terms, okay, I just don't think Tyson Fury rates being on the pound for pound list. But I'll tell you guys how he snuck in, because we went back and forth on this, and there are other people on the panel who agree with me, okay? Who else has clearly, distinctively separated himself enough to be rated in the top 10? And this is the debate that we had, okay? Charlo Castaño fought to a draw. A lot of people thought Castaño won. Some people thought Charlo won. Most people were pretty good with the draw. Neither one of them clearly separated themselves where I feel either of the Charlos or Castaño belongs on this list. They don't. They haven't done more than Fury. And I don't like Fury being on the list, but the truth is neither one of those guys have done more than Fury. So who would you put here? Who would you rate? That's the question. And we went down the list of guys who are just there, just like we thought about Beterbiev, but he hasn't been fighting. Now he has a fight coming up. What, next week, I think it is. If he looks good in that fight, he's back on the list. Fury's off. I can't guarantee it, but that would be my bet. Okay, so the list will change in the coming weeks. Okay, you guys got to remember, Golovkin had a fight coming up. We were going to see Ioka fight, and some of those fights got canceled, pushed back. So we don't quite know who's moving and shaking. But at some point, Charlo Castaño are going to do a rematch. I think Charlo will win that fight. That might be enough to nudge him on this list, depending on what happens. Teofimo Lopez is gone, right? We kicked him off the list entirely. I don't think Kambosos deserves to be on for one big win. So that's the problem right now. No one out there has solidified themselves as a pound for pound guy clearly and distinctively to deserve being on this list. That's the truth. And that's why right now I feel our list is kind of incomplete and kind of like floating in limbo, to be honest. It doesn't feel good. And I don't think Fury belongs on there, but he belongs on there more than some of the other guys that other publications have on their list. So, all right, let's see. We've got, let's watch this Donaire Gaballo weigh in. And let's go back to the phones, shall we? We got a couple of calls here. All right, we've got, it looks like we got a call from the Bronx. 646, you're on the show. What's going on?
Hey, what's happening?
What's up?
Montero. What's going on?
Not much, man. Not much.
Not much. All right. So listen, as far as you talking about that pound for pound thing, kind of threw me off from what my my plan point was, but I do want to touch upon that once. Is that for me, my understanding of pound for pound and why I would put a fighter on a pound for pound list would be simply is, do your strength does what you do as a fighter translate into other weight classes? So, for example, I would put Vasily Lomachenko on a pound for pound list because we have evidence that his style and what he does as a fighter translates in other divisions, because we can tangibly see that Usyk fights in Lomachenko's style. That is Lomachenko's style. They come from the same school. Also, what Vosdick did at 175 was against the guy who he got the WBC belt from when he won. It was
Stevenson.
Similar movements, and they all like studied under Papachenko, right? So that's one thing. As far as Tyson Fury is concerned, you're right. He has the 3 wins over, the 2 wins over Wilder, and then the draw, plus he had the Klitschko win. But the thing about Fury is that he showed an ability to adapt from one fight to the other. He was evasive in the first fight against Wilder, and then the second and third fight he came forward. And the other thing is that despite what anybody says about Wilder being a B-level fighter, nobody gets up from that right hand the
Okay.
way that Fury did. The other thing
That's
is
a good point. That's a good point.
The other thing that I really wanted to get to is that, you know, I get a little bit annoyed with the state of. I hope that you don't have something against being critical against fellow writers and stuff like that. But I just heard this show that I'm not gonna promote him on your show. You're probably not gonna like that. But the thing is that here's these two guys, well-established writers, a very popular podcast, right? They sit around and talk about Lomachenko and why is Lomachenko hanging around at 135. They say, oh, he should go back down to 130. There's nobody going to fight at 135. This on the eve of him fighting for the WBO mandatory position at 135. On the eve of that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, these are who these boxing fans have to report back to them. No wonder the sport is all screwed up and the fans don't know what's going on. You understand? So, let's say Lomachenko, why is he at 135? Because Haney's not going to get that Cambosa fight. That's not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah.
Lomachenko, if you think about it objectively, what would be a bigger payday for Cambosos in Australia, which you know that Lomachenko would like board the next plane to Australia? Lomachenko or Haney?
Lomachenko.
He's an international star.
Yeah, all day.
He's not as big as right. So him and his willingness to go to Australia, the fact that he's a mandatory position at the WBO and the WBC if he wins against Coleman, right? Puts him in prime position to getting that Cambosos fight, which would be ironic because it would be tantamount to him getting a rematch with Lopez.
It's crazy the way it works, right, man? Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's boxing, though, man.
Crazy.
Round and round it goes, this thing of ours.
It definitely is, man.
I'm curious, what show were you talking about before? I'm curious.
I'm glad you asked. You see, I'm going to let you ask me before
I might not say shit, but I'm just curious.
Hey, listen, man, right? You got to listen to that show. It is dribble.
Max?
And Keith Heidi.
Okay.
No, Mannix.
Oh, yeah.
The guy from the Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mannix. He had Keith Heidi on. These are two huge names. As far as writing, am I wrong here? These are not New Jacks. This is not a regular old, run-of-the-mill cat. They know what's going on. So, but it behooves me. It's like, wow, man, like you sit there writing for a living, being all up in this thing, and don't understand the landscape? Really? It's gonna really. They went on and on and on and on about Haney getting this fight, and Lomachenko, he's got nowhere. And what's he gonna do at 135? He's this and that. He's got nothing there. I don't see him staying there. And I'm like, dude, WBO mandatory.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing there. And the thing is, with if you're what's his name, the promoter that has Coleman, Zabella. If you're Zabella, first of all, let me tell you something. It's high time that Zabella starts really reaping the benefits of his higher level fighters, because he didn't do it with Maravilla, because Maravilla was the WBC middleweight champion, right? Mm-hmm. And he kowtowed to Cotto. And I know that Cotto was the one with the Puerto Rican fans and this and that, but not to that extent. The point that happened with Zabella is that he can't get into a negotiating. He can't sit at a negotiating table with Bob Arum. He can't do it. That's why he gave away the kitchen sink with that fight when it was Cotto who needed that belt. But that's neither here nor there. The thing is this, that right now, Zabella, let's say that Coleman does beat Lomachenko. He lands a right hand, Lomachenko can't get up. Boom. Do you give that fight what do? Do you do Come do you do a Come Camboso, or do you do Haney Camboso? Do you keep it in house? Would he have the hook spot to keep it in house? And it would probably be the biggest fight that he's ever had in house in his life.
I would still go with the Come fight. I would still, if I were Kambosos in that situation, I would still go with the Come fight, because stylistically, I think Come would be an easier fight for him, a better fight for him than Haney. And you could do the Come fight, which is a mandatory, and you could do that in Australia, make that your big homecoming and everything, and then do the fight with Haney the second half of next year. And if you want to sell out for the money, you come to Vegas. If you can get, you could do it in Australia again, you do it that way. But that would be the way the business should work, if I was advising them.
I'm glad you bring that up, because what I'm finding is that it's very hard for boxing world to swallow right now at this moment that Kambosos would be the A side in any fight, because he actually does have a country behind him.
Yeah, but brother, you got to remember, man,
money.
A lot of boxing fans don't understand, like I'm talking about American fight fans, they don't understand that there's a world outside of America called Earth.
Exactly.
There's other countries. And I talk about this all the time, man. Like Kambosos is going to bring a lot of international money in. And yeah, Come absolutely would be the B side. Even Haney, I think, would be the financial B side in that situation, man.
Tank Davis would be the B side. Tank Davis would be the B side, which is another thing.
You know how many heads will explode if they heard you say that right now?
Listen, it is what it is. It is what Crawford, when Crawford does his little pay-per-view numbers, he says, whether it's a 130 or 190, it's a big deal, it's a failure. But nobody's talking about what G Davis, I call him G, by the way, because he hasn't risen up to the level of Tank yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tanks aren't that protected. G's are. So anyway, nobody's talking about the numbers he's doing. He's not cracking 200,000.
Right.
And when he does a pay-per-view, they have to give, 40, 50% to the cable company. Meanwhile, even if Crawford did 135,000, first it was reported 192, but whatever it is, Top Rank made money from that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why you use that portal. And Crawford is about to find out that the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he's about to find out.
Oh, yeah.
He's thinking, he's under this impression that the pay-per-views and this and that, and they shouldn't have put it on ESPN Plus. Listen, you dingbat. What Top Rank did for you was classy. On the way out the door, they give you the biggest fight with them, man. On the way out they could have given you some jab and pay you the $4.5 million minimum that you have, put you on your way out the door. But on the way out the door, they shell out $10 million to put you against Porter. Let them handle their business and make their money. Whatever they put it, if they put it on the ESPN portal because they can make more money back, what business is that of yours? You understand what I'm saying? And Crawford, now that he's gone, now he wants to make videos calling out fence and being all up in the media and this and that. You should have done that when you were with Top Rank.
Should have been doing that for 10 years, man.
Megaphone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to think about it this way, man.
Sit back and just say,
when Crawford went pro, nobody wanted him. Nobody. Top Rank picked him up. He might have already had this belt against Burns. He might have been with Top Rank when he fought Burns. I can't remember, but they picked him up and they built a brand because dude sells. He sells out when he fights in Omaha. So they built a brand in his hometown. Yeah. They've traveled to Vegas for a couple of his fights. He's done okay for a guy that no other promoter wanted and is not easy to market. They've done very well. So I agree with you. He's going to find out the grass isn't always greener.
That's what it is, brothers. Anyway, man, thank you for giving me the time. Michael Montero. You know who's talking to you, right?
No, yeah, I didn't get your name, brother. Who is
Next Level Boxing Talk, baby.
Next Level Boxing Talk. All right, man. Yeah, okay. I saw you on the chat. Hey, man, call in again, brother. All right?
All right, brother, man. Thank you, man.
All right, have a good one. That's some great points there, man. Some great points. Real quick, guys, I want to jump to a couple of these super chats. I love some of these comments about Nico Walsh, by the way. This shit's hilarious. But Agro Shaolin with the super chat. Thank you so much, man. He says, why was Loma and Usyk left out of Ring's latest 100? Curious about the grading. You got to elaborate on that. Are you talking about, was there a list of 100 fighters? What am I missing? Because I can't think. They're both on the pound-for-pound list right now. So we give Loma and Usyk plenty of love. We recognize their greatness. But you got to elaborate. It's because I'm trying to think of what list you're talking about. Matt Sadio with the super chat. Thank you very much, brother. He says, this Estrada Chocolatito Rungvisai Quadras rivalry severely underrated. Fuck yeah, it is. You want to talk about everyone's talking about the four kings and shit, or the four pups is what I call them at right around lightweight right now. How about these guys right at 115? Every single one of those fights that they've put up in recent years have been fire. Every single one. So yeah, I whenever those guys are fighting each other or really anybody else, I'm watching. Real talk. Arrow with the super chat. Thank you. He says Spence is way too high, doesn't belong on the list. Yeah, look, man. I like Spence as a fighter. I think he's the second best welterweight in the world. I think Crawford's number one. I think Spence is number two. And by the way, I felt that way for years. It didn't take Crawford beating Porter for me to suddenly wake up and think that way. Those of you who watch the show, you know I've always felt that way. But I'm high on Spence, but in a pound-for-pound sense, okay? He hasn't cleaned out his division. He hasn't fought the top guy. He's had everything in-house since Brook. And again, his best win is Brook. And like I described before about Brook, coming down 2 weight classes, coming off a knockout loss, coming off a facial reconstructive surgery. If that's your best W, and that was how many years ago? I don't know if that's pound for pound. Maybe he's at the very bottom of the top 10 because, again, there's not a lot of guys that have really separated themselves. But, to Matt's comment, maybe Estrada and Chocolatito should be on the list right now. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they should both be in the top 10 because their fight was so close earlier this year. I don't know. But yeah, they want pound for pound list, man. It's all subjective. Sam A with the super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, Donaire looks real good. He likes this young Filipino, but should beat him. He wants the rematch with Inoue. Yes, he does. He very much does. That fight has to happen again. It was fight of the year. Yeah, so I talked to Donaire a lot during the summer for an article I was doing for Ring when he was supposed to fight. And he was supposed to fight Casimero. Remember that? He told me then, him and his wife, they want that rematch with Inoue. Really, really bad. They want that rematch. By the way, a couple of you guys commented in the chat when Donaire was doing translation for his opponent during a press conference they had for Gaballo, his opponent, who only speaks Tagalog. He was doing, he was translating. And it was funny is Gaballo was talking about Donaire because he was being asked questions from the media about his opponent, which is Donaire. So Donaire translated for the media about Gaballo's answer about him. Like it was very cool. And Donaire is such a classy guy. As soon as he retires, he will get my vote for the Hall of Fame. First ballot. I don't give a shit who else is on the ballot. Donaire's in. And it's for several reasons. This little run he's going on later in his career is pretty awesome, especially when you consider that he's a clean fighter, one of the few undeniable clean fighters in all of fight sports today. And he's the only guy, and I've talked about this a million times, that does, at his expense, 24/7 drug testing with VADA. He's the real deal when it comes to that, man. And that's why I respect him so much for everything he's done in the ring, but also that he's just a class act in American boxing. I get it. He was born in the Philippines, but he's an American fighter. We could really use a lot more Nonito Donaire's. Agro Shaolin, again, with the super chat. So yeah, he was saying, okay, the Ring Magazine latest issue. Okay, Agro, I haven't seen that article. I haven't seen it yet because now I know what you're talking about. They were doing 100 years special with this issue that just came out, and I just haven't gotten it yet. I haven't had a chance. I've been so damn busy to read everything yet that came through, so I haven't seen the article. But I'll check it out. I should be getting it any day now. And this weekend, at least Sunday, I should have some downtime. I can read that, and we'll talk about it on my show next week. All right, how about that? Sorry I can't give you an answer right now, but we'll talk about it next week. I promise you, brother. Okay, we're going to take a couple more quick calls, running out of the hour here. So let's keep these quick. All right, guys, we're going to run through these real quick. Quick reminder for those of you just getting on, Underground Showdown tomorrow night, WBC Live Network. Go to their website, create a login. It's free. You can watch your boy, call the ringside commentary, along with Mr. Money Powell III, who's an awesome human being from a boxing family. All right. Keith, what's up? You're on the show, my friend.
Hi, what's going on?
Chilling.
How are you?
Good.
Happy Friday.
You too.
Real quick, thank you. Real quick, we kind of the media the last couple of years. I'm not talking about anyone specifically. They kind of like essentially pointed at after the Lopez Kambosos fight, everything that Lopez went through, and is apparently 25, I guess, going into the fight. But I think what Kambosos kind of went through too, and how he's acting afterwards, is just kind of like a testament or a really good example of how not only fighters should act, but human beings in general should act. He's very, very humble, very, very grateful, and just the way he handled, just the way he was handling the media and just talking to other potential opponents in the future as well. It's like, wow, this guy, people like Lopez should take note as well too.
Yeah, good point. That's a real good point.
He lost his grandfather, and he had his son born the same day, going to that camp. He had to go through the Australian quarantine as well too. So he went through a lot of stuff. And you didn't get to elaborate, but you said in the a lot of people were thinking that Lopez was avoiding the Lomachenko rematch because they saw something. I mean, what I saw was in the second half of the fight, Lomachenko turned it on, and then it looked like the shots that he was landing on Lopez were visibly bothering Lopez. And I mean, that's pretty obvious. But what was there anything else that you think that they saw that kind of deters them from taking the rematch?
So from Loma's side, he found something, and I thought, won the second half of that fight. He, dropped the first 6 rounds, but then he won the second half of the fight. But then for Lopez, I think, and some of it might be the weight cut. He has shown that in later rounds of fights at lightweight, he does kind of start to slow down toward the second half, especially in the championship rounds. And there were just some technical things that Loma kind of figured out, because the one thing about Tio is he could be a little predictable. He's explosive as hell. But you saw how predictable he was against Kambosos. Now, Kambosos had the benefit of watching 12 rounds between Tio and Loma. He had that to look at and study, but you could see that they prepared for certain things. He saw certain punches coming. They still got through because Tio's so fast and athletic. And you saw Kambosos, his face was marked up. But Tio Junior and Senior know what happened in the ring against Loma in the second half of that fight. Regardless of what they say publicly, they know. And that's why they were in no rush to do a rematch with Lomachenko.
Yeah, that's a good point. My thing is, if Lomachenko wins tomorrow, which I think he should, if he probably would become, like I mentioned, a front runner. My only thing is that it's not. Actually, it might be a mandatory. So if it's a mandatory, never mind. But if he's not a mandatory, I don't see Bob Arum throwing a whole lot of money towards that fight, to be honest, especially if he's a co-promoter, because he wants to keep everything in house. And then the other thing I want to talk about too is with Devin Haney. I don't think he should take his time before he goes to 140. He's a fast fighter, great technique, but he's not extremely slick. Like, he gets caught, he gets hit with shots. He's not very slippery and elusive as much as you think people say he is. And if he gets touched because Diaz is touching him, and he's not really, I don't think a true lightweight. I think he needs to hire a better nutritionist to cut back down to 130 because he doesn't have the pop. I mean, he's got power, but if a Tank or obviously Lomachenko were to land on Devin Haney, it could definitely could change the arc of the fight. I think that could hurt him, and he has no power either. So, yeah. But that's my call. Thank you guys for everything, and I'll be listening.
Thanks a lot, brother. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, I think we're going to take one more call. I think this is Hamed. Let me see. Let me jump over here to the phone. All right, 796, you're on the show. What's going on?
Yeah, Jimmy, how's it going?
I'm Ed. What's going on, man? Long time no talk.
Yeah, I'm good. I haven't been able to tune in for the last couple of weeks because I've been busy with work. I've tuned in here and out, here and there, but I just wanted to get thoughts on a couple of things. You know, with the Fury White fight being ordered,
Oh yeah.
it looks like, it seems like we may never get an undisputed fight, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on this. If Joshua and what's it called, Eddie Hearn, they have second thoughts about that rematch and go a different way, I'd say Usyk is free. And then Fury, I don't know, it won't be a good luck in a way, but say he drops that belt and he fights Usyk. Would that diminish the fight any less, or do you think it doesn't make a difference? Because I think they're both, like, I said this last year, I said this a couple of years ago as well. Regardless of all the belts being on the line, we are yet to see the two, universally, unquestionably, two guys fight each other when they're both at the peak of their powers. So it happened to Wilder Joshua, and it happened to Joshua Fury. It looks like it may happen with Fury and Usyk. I'm not sure what you think about that.
That's an interesting question, man. So just to make sure I understand your scenario here, if Joshua kind of stepped aside and went a different direction, and Fury dumped the WBC belt, he decided he didn't want to fight Dillian Whyte as mandatory, and we ended up getting Fury Usyk, you'd have the two top heavyweights fighting each other, but it wouldn't be for quote unquote undisputed. And most fans would rather see that than anything else because it's clearly the two best. But there would be a little section of fans out there that would say, well, this isn't for undisputed. And that's why I always say, I think a lot of people pay too much attention to the belts. The belts are too political. It's a political thing. And I think that fans should stop looking at all the different titles and just look at, okay, who are the two best fighters in the division? Let's get them to fight. Sometimes the real champion of a division has two belts. Sometimes they have all four. Really doesn't matter. We know when the man has beat the man, right? Like we know when that's happened. And right now, Fury and Usyk are the man. Those are the two guys.
Yeah, the reason I say that because it looks like we may never get an undisputed fight. And I know a lot of these guys who wanted undisputed, and some of these guys have YouTube channels, and some of these guys I've seen them vocal on social media, but they're very vocal when it was Joshua and Wilder, and it looks like they were looking at it from one point. I know the Wilder fanatic BBC fans were looking at it the other way. So to me, it seems like now they just want, and it looks like Eddie Hearn wants Joshua and White to fight because that's an in-house. What's it called? They couldn't make it in-house undisputed unification. I understand that what Hearn is doing. He's a promoter and he's looking after his fighters. But as a fan, I wanted to see Wilder and Klitschko fight. I wanted to see Fury and Joshua fight. It looks like we may never get that because the thing with this fight is, if this Caleb Plant and Canelo and Caleb Plant threw that belt away, that's a different scenario. With Fury, he does have the ring belt. He's unquestionably the number one guy in the division, and both Fury and Usyk are also unbeaten, and they cannot, either one of those guys can be ranked no lower than number two. So I rather just see that fight, whether or not it's for all the belts. I don't really care at this stage because I was saying the same with Joshua and Fury because the thing it looks like every time we get into this position, something comes up. I know Eddie Hearn put in a rematch clause, and Usyk agreed to it, but I don't know how. Where do we stop? It keeps dragging on, and it could get to a stage where this either could be over. And we don't see a clear. To me, whoever wins that fight between Fury and Usyk is undisputed. I know they won't have all the belts, but what happened with Devin Haney and the whole WBC franchise situation, to me right now, is too many belts. I don't know, is the WBC and WBA really any more credible than the IBO? I think it's hard to argue.
It's harder and harder to argue that. Yeah, I think that's why I say the undisputed lightweight champion of the world right now is George Kambosos. He beat the man who beat the man who beat the man. And that really upsets some people. And they say, well, what about Devin Haney? And I say, I like Devin Haney. He's a top 5 lightweight. He has a belt, but he's not the champion. And there's a big difference between a title holder and a champion. And sometimes the actual champion of a division isn't necessarily the best fighter. Because if you ask me, who's a better fighter today, Lomachenko or Kambosos? I'd say Lomachenko is better than Kambosos. Yeah. But Loma has no belts, but he's better than Kambosos. I'd favor Teofimo Lopez if he would have fought Kambosos when Top Rank wanted him to back in March. I think Teo would have won the fight. So, but Kambosos is the champion. He's got the belts and he beat the guy. So, yeah, and that's just the debate, Hamed, that goes back and forth between boxing fans, you know?
Yeah, I'll say one last thing on that. There is two sides to it. Technically, undisputed is normally for all the belts, but there is a scenario. I don't know if a lot of these fans were watching boxing back when Hassan and Pacquiao fought, and I think it happened with Nassim Ahmed and Barrera. Both those fights, it wasn't actually recognized as a major alphabet tribute belt on the line. I think the Ring Magazine was on the line and the IBO belt was on the line. And when Pacquiao beat Hassan, he became the lineal the champion. I think Hassan did have the IBF belt, but they didn't sanction the belt.
Yeah, because Hatton had beat Kostya Tszyu, and even I think he had one fight up at 47 and lost. I think he had technically
beat Malnagi.
Okay, yeah. But he was recognized as the 140 champ still. So when Pacquiao beat him, he became the legit champ at 140.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because we really want to see the best fight, the best. But I don't mind seeing Fury and White. I think that's a good fight. That's probably the best fight we could see outside the Fury can't fight the other two. Was it Joshua Usyk, but. Same with Usyk. If there was a way of him stepping aside and just fighting the winner of Fury Wilder, which was Fury, I don't really care about the belts anymore. Like there was a point when Joshua and Wilder were trying to unify. I thought it was good that we could have seen an undisputed champion, but 3 years of just the whole thing going back and forth. I don't know. Like I think Heyman, Hearn, a lot of these guys, even maybe Bob, will try and do the same. It seems like they just. Well,
at heavyweight, everything's exaggerated because the money is exaggerated. But I will tell you, and I've talked about this on my channel, Al Heyman and PBC and Deontay Wilder's team blocked unification in the division going back to 2014. They were the biggest, not the only reason, but the biggest reason. They're out of the box now. They're out of the picture. So it is up to Top Rank, Bob Arum, and Top Rank and Eddie Hearn and Matchroom to get this shit done. And these guys, I would say, have until the end of next year to get it done. It's complicated. There are mandatories. You have to take care of that shit. I get it. But build the fight. If Usyk beats Joshua again next spring and Fury beats White in their fight, then you got the green light. Go ahead and do it. But now that Al Heyman's out of the picture, the roadblocks are gone, and they got to get it done. If they do not get it done by the end of 22, shame on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I would like to see on that's true, but at the same time, with Joyce and some of these other mandatory challenges, I don't know, like with Charles Martin fighting Luis Ortiz, to me it looks like Heyman's trying to get back one of his guys
he is
as a mandatory challenge.
Of course.
And at that point, I don't know, it comes down to these sanctioning bodies. Who have they got a better relationship with? Because say if Usyk does beat Joshua, Fury and White, say Fury wins out, vice versa, or whatever. At that point, what if another mandatory is called? And
there will be.
One of Heyman's guys.
One of Heyman's guys will be in line for the BA, and he has a very good relationship with the BC. They'll take care of him. So the BC and BA will work with Heyman to get mandatory shots for their guys. But you have a year to fulfill that mandatory. So once Fury beats White, which he will, and I favor Usyk to beat Joshua in that rematch, but that rematch is going to be way more competitive than a lot of fans think. It's not a given. But assuming Usyk wins, they will have the go-ahead to do it right then. And it'll basically be like at some point next summer where they can do it. They have to get it done then. If they don't, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Hopefully that happens. One other thing I want to see before I drop off. Is Nui fighting some guy on the Tuesday? Because I was looking at that, but I wasn't too. All right. So
Yeah.
I think that's.
I'm going to talk about that on my show Monday. He's got there's several cards coming up. I think in Thailand, Japan and they do this toward the end of the year. It's just a cultural thing over there.
Yeah. What do you? Before I go, I just want to say, what do you think of Bertubiev and Marcus Brown? Because I'm looking at Bevol's fighting this week. The guy he's fighting is a good fighter. He's meant to fight. I think is the guy that Joe Smith beat in a close decision. But Bertubiev and Marcus Brown, a couple of years ago, I think that would have been. It still might be a competitive fight, but I think that would have been a close fight. I just think a lot of people now are basing on what happened with Marcus Brown's fight against. I think it's Pascal, but since then Pascal popped.
Yeah,
so
I was just going to say, I think people are putting way too much into that. I think that's a competitive fight. I think Marcus Brown is going to give Beterbiev some issues. I still favor Beterbiev. I think he'll overcome him and stop him. But Jean Pascal was doped up, juiced to the gills when he beat Brown. So people are putting way too much weight into that. I think it's a competitive fight, man. Brown's a southpaw. He's a lot younger. He's a strong, athletic guy. He was an Olympian. He's not a chump. So I think he's going to give Beterbiev a good fight. I really do.
Yeah, Beterbiev should give him Beterbiev a good fight, but they both fought, I think, a similar opponent. I think his name was Hot Rod, something Kalajnik, but I think that was a really long time ago in Marcus Brown's career. He was richly a prospect. I think his 8th rounder, a lot of people thought he may have lost it, but since then, I've kind of been impressed with Marcus Brown, apart from the Pascal fight. So I thought he beat Badou Jack quite convincingly. That's the fight I'm kind of looking forward to.
I am too.
Because I think in that division is one of the better matchups. So thanks for taking my call. I'll catch you soon. It's good talking to you.
Thanks, Hamed. You too, man. Have a good weekend.
All right. Yeah, likewise. Nice.
All right, guys, that's it for the Friday wrap-up. Some great calls. Right before I go, Nacho on the chat says, Mike, I disagree. Brown is a spent bullet. Pascal beat him bad in his last fight. He didn't look great at all. I hear you, Nacho, but first of all, Pascal was doped up on a bunch of shit, wasn't a natural fighter, and Brown had a lot of things going on outside the ring. That dude loves to beat women. Hopefully he's overcome that a little bit. He might be a bigger woman beater than Sergey Kovalev. Hopefully they cleared that shit up. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot more focused. I think he took Pascal lightly. And look, again, I still think Beterbiev is going to beat him and stop him late in that fight. I'm just saying it's going to be more competitive than people realize. Super chat from Drew right at the very end. Thank you so much, Drew. He says, Usyk stops AJ next time, and I'll be there again. Damn, dude, nice. AJ will try bullying him now, and Usyk will be pinpoint accurate. Bring back rooftop Montero. Hey, man, maybe I'll just get in the roof of my house and do the show. All right, guys. Hey, Drew, you know what? You're right. I'll think about that. Maybe it's possible. I'll think about that. We'll see what happens. But you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. We'll be back at TNC episode 294 on Monday. If you can listen and watch me do my thing live tomorrow, Underground Showdown here in Atlanta, make sure you check that out, okay? Peace.